All right, everyone, welcome back. We've had a great show so far talking all about Trinity College, which is a terrific school and a place that if you want to attend, maybe get great financially, maybe you need to take out loans. That's my way of trying to make a segment into the or segue into this next segment to talk a little bit about current borrowers who are in loan repayment and some of the updates that have happened. And we've wanted to keep everybody abreast of new developments that are happening within the loan repayment space. So I've got one of my excellent educational finance colleagues here. Jen Willcox is going to talk us through this. Hey, Jen, welcome back to the
Hey,
show.
hey, Ian. Thanks for having me.
So, my understanding is that we're heading back into repayment, that borrowers have been notified of this fact. That brings some stress, of course, stress along with that. So, to alleviate the stress of loan repayment, what would be a good starting point for borrowers who are entering into
Yeah,
repayment soon?
great. So first of all, I'd like to say congrats. This is kind of targeted more towards students who graduated in spring. So students that have been in their grace period, and your grace period is coming to an end here in the next month or so. What can you do and what do you need to do? First of all, I'd say is let's start getting your ducks in a row, tracking down your loan information. Do you have federal loans? Are you unsure if you have federal loans? There is a way that you can check that on studentaid.gov. You can log in with your FSA ID, the same one that you used when you filled out your FAFSA form. Look on there to see, do you have loans? Who's servicing the loans? I would encourage you to, if you do have them, create an account with your federal loan servicer. Make sure that all contact information is up to date. Not for them not being able to find you isn't a reason for you not to pay. So making sure that all that contact information is up to date, and identifying available loan repayment options and really seeing when your monthly payment due date is and what that amount is. Now,
Yeah.
if a borrower might have private loans or they're unsure, that's a little different. So private loans, if a borrower has documents from when they borrowed those loans, they would easily be able to see who managed that. If they're unsure, they can run a credit report and see who they might have outstanding debt with on that. So, and then I think the big thing right now is create that spending plan, look at your budget, figuring out how much you can afford to pay.
Now, none of those tasks sound fun. And I can imagine that these are things that someone would be like, I'm just going to put, I'll do this later. But sounds like get yourself a strong cup of coffee, make sure you've got some time, and just go through these checklists and make sure that you're, as you said, your ducks are in a row
Exactly.
before you
It'd be
start again.
well worth a few hours on your Saturday.
Well worth it. Not fun, but one of those things that you want to just put behind you and make sure that you tackle. So now folks, once they've got their ducks in a row, they're going to start thinking about their loan repayment options. Are there tools available to help them navigate what those options look like?
Yeah, great question. There are. And for federal loans, when a borrower enters repayment, they automatically get put into a 10-year standard repayment plan.
Okay.
That number can sometimes look a little frightening. So on the federal aid site, there is a tool called the Federal Loan Simulator. It allows you to look at all different repayment options. So if 10-year doesn't work for your spending plan right now, you could look at an extended repayment plan or possibly one of the income-driven repayment plans. Right now, there are only two income-driven repayment plans open. I'm sure many people have heard about the favorable save plan that is under current litigation. That plan, you can still apply for it. However, if you do, they're going to put your loan in a forbearance that is not accruing any interest until the litigation has been heard. And then there is income-based repayment, IBR. That's a payment plan where a borrower, they would look at 10% of your discretionary
Okay.
income. I always caution borrowers when you're looking at choosing a lowest payment option. We hear this often, I can't afford anything. I can only afford this much. And choosing a low payment option per month is always enticing, but be cautious. You're paying more in interest over the life of the loan. So sometimes when you crunch those numbers, maybe you put off buying the new car or stay with your roommate a little longer, or your parents live within their spare room so that you can get this debt paid off. In December, mid-December, there's been some grumblings a couple of weeks ago coming out that there might be a couple of other income-based repayment options that are opening up. So I think
Okay.
this is really an important time for borrowers to just make a plan with what we know and keep your eyes and ears open. As we kind of know with from the election and things happening, things are ever changing.
Right. I mean, and we don't have an opportunity. I mean, we can speculate as much as we want, but there's not something that's concrete to understand what the new administration will do around loans. So just a good idea to handle everything with what we know now, and then to adjust as things change heading
Right.
into the new year. Um, so these are all you're talking about federal loan repayment options. Private loans typically a little different, right? Are the same options available for private loans?
Private loans are very different. You're borrowing from a private lender who really wants their money. So for a private loan, there you don't have a lot of wiggle room around income-driven repayments. You may be able to call and work with your lender on putting your loan on hold for a short while or paying interest only if needed. So really important to stay in touch with your lender. You could always also look at refinancing your loan for a new rate and new term that might work better for payment, monthly payment amount for you.
So one of the things that we have come on the show to talk about quite a few times over the last few months is loan forgiveness. What's going on with loan forgiveness? Especially if I'm someone that just graduated from college and I'm starting to enter into repayment now. Should I be hopeful here? Should
Yeah,
I
great
read the news or
question.
just ignore it
And
completely?
we get this on lots of calls. People say, "Oh, I'm gonna keep my loans federal for a while. I'm holding out for that loan forgiveness, the kind of
Mhm.
overall loan forgiveness." Where it is a very newsworthy topic, I think it's pretty unlikely at this point. I encourage borrowers when I'm counseling them to consider some of the other existing student loan forgiveness options if they were something they were to qualify for, like public service loan forgiveness. There is still teacher loan forgiveness and then state loan forgiveness and other state repayment options. But that original kind of overarching loan forgiveness program, I think we can probably assume that that is kind of that ship sailed.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. Certainly, there haven't been any whispering about the new administration having any loan forgiveness program in their agenda either. Now, what about consolidation? This is something that you mentioned to me before we started the show, um, and wondering whether a borrower needs to consolidate their loans before they start repayment, especially if you've got different loan sources. What's your recommendation around that
Yeah, great.
approach?
So consolidation, I think, and the term refinance often get confusing to borrowers. So consolidation is a federal term, and that is where a borrower will take their multiple loans and roll them into one loan with a new interest rate. That interest rate would be a weighted average rounded up to the nearest eighth of percent. So loans don't have to be necessarily consolidated in order for a borrower to make a payment. You can have multiple loans with a federal servicer. You'll make your one payment and they will disseminate a small amount of your payment to each of those loans. When a borrower might want to consolidate would be if they're looking for an extended repayment option
Mm,
that is offered through consolidation, or if a borrower were to have a couple of different loan servicers. By consolidating, you would be able to streamline that in dealing with just one company. But refinance would be more of a private term where you would be looking at taking your loans away from one company, rolling them into a brand new loan with a new interest rate. So I think that's definitely a term people get very confused on, and federal consolidation is sure not for everyone.
gotcha. Very, very helpful. Is there anything that you'd like to leave us with? Any final tips around loan repayment that folks should be aware of?
Mhm. Yeah, I think I could. First thing I would say is don't ignore your loan servicer. They're your friend. Student
Okay.
loans need to be repaid. They're not going away.
Yeah.
Um, Secondly, if you sign up for direct debit for your student loan payment, it ensures an on-time payment and it also will give you an interest rate reduction.
Okay.
The big thing I can say is beware of companies trying to charge you to manage your student loans. There's a lot of scams out there. So if something seems too good to be true, definitely check it out. And then if you have questions about any of it, go to a vested source, your servicer, your school financial aid office. You can follow us on our social media platforms. You can ask questions to us there. Check to see if your employer offers student loan coaching or a student loan repayment option of some kind.
And just keep listening to the podcast, because whenever something new happens, we've got our college finance experts on the show to talk you through it. Jen, thanks a lot for coming on and helping us
Thank
understand this
you,
better.
Ian.
I appreciate it. We will be back again next week as we make our way through December. Sally Ganga will be the host. We'll be talking about Landmark College. We'll talk about how to research colleges and to find accommodations at schools for students who have learning differences. And we'll talk about the top higher education finance questions from high school seniors and their parents right now. So we look forward to having you back. Hope you all had a great start to the holiday season and that this has been a pleasant winter so far. Take care of each other.